Picture this. A guy I know walks into a crowded room. Out of nowhere, a colleague starts tearing into him, right in front of everyone. Personal insults, mocking his work, laughing like it's a performance. The room goes quiet. Everyone waits for the explosion, the red face, or the desperate comeback. But the guy just looks at him, gives a small smile, and says nothing. He stands still, breathing easy. The silence gets heavy. The aggressor starts shifting uncomfortably, losing his momentum until he mumbles something and walks away. The guy turns back to his drink as if the interruption never happened. Most people live at the mercy of their environment. They fight traffic, argue with hostile bosses, and obsess over digital opinions, letting external triggers dictate their pulse. When you react reflexively to every spark, you hand over control of your life to anyone willing to provide a distraction. You can gain authority over these moments by shifting your focus. This is the mechanical core of Stoic practice, recognizing that while you rarely control what others do, you have total ownership of your response. By anchoring your attention on your internal state, you stop trying to wrestle the world into submission. Power resides in hijacking the split-second timeline of your emotional reactions. You aren't aiming to dominate the external chaos. You are aiming to be unaffected by it. Achieving this state requires the preparation. You cannot build a resilient mind while in the middle of a crisis. Attempting to stay calm during an insult without prior work is like trying to build a storm shelter once the hurricane has already made landfall. A mind left untrained stays weak and reactive. You build resilience through deliberate conditioning, such as 10 minutes of silence every morning. Sitting without a phone or noise forces you to observe your thoughts rather than being driven by them. Over time, this quiet becomes a reliable baseline. You also prepare by visualizing potential failures. Every morning, you briefly consider the possibility of a lost job or a collapsed deal. This isn't an exercise in pessimism. It is a way to strip future catastrophes of their fear-inducing power before they ever materialize. Finally, you cultivate inner validation. You show up and do the work regardless of the audience. When you stop requiring praise to feel effective, external criticism loses its ability to sting. These habits construct a secure mental armor. When chaos strikes, you aren't operating from a place of panic. Your baseline state is already established and protected. You open your phone and there's a nasty text or comment. Your fingers already hovering over the reply button. Stop. There's a tiny gap between the trigger and your response. That gap is your superpower. Breathe. Count to 5. Realize it's not worth your peace. Within this gap, silence is a tactical tool. By refusing to fire back immediately, you force the aggressor to sit with their own hostility. This drains their leverage and transfers the momentum of the interaction back to you. While you remain quiet, you filter the situation. You identify the variables you actually own. You cannot change the words already spoken, but you can choose your next move. You act only on what is strictly within your power. Mastering this brief window of time changes your role from a victim of circumstance to an active participant. The balance of power shifts from the trigger to your internal choice. Phase 3 is the release, which focuses on the aftermath of negative events. Projects fail and plans fall through. How you process these moments determines whether the event continues to drain your energy. Fighting a reality that has already occurred generates unnecessary pain. Instead, you practice radical acceptance by acknowledging the facts. This happened. Now what? This acknowledgement allows you to move directly into problem solving. You also detach from outcomes. You might pour everything into a goal, but the final result is never under your full authority. Peace lives in how you meet the challenge, not in the trophy at the end. Finally, you ignore external judgments. Riding the emotional roller coaster of other people's opinions is a form of dependency. Handing someone else the remote control to your mood ensures you will remain vulnerable. True independence means you can engage deeply with life and care for people without needing them to behave a certain way for you to feel whole. Practicing these habits won't turn you into a robot. You will still feel anger, hurt, and disappointment. These are natural human responses. You still feel everything: the hurt, the anger, the disappointment, but none of it controls you anymore. You feel it, and you let it pass. This is the end state of being emotionally untouchable. You stop waiting for the external world to get easier or fairer. Instead, you meet life strictly on your own terms. Which of these habits will you implement today? Will you start with 10 minutes of morning silence, or will you practice the pause the next time you feel a trigger? Prioritizing these internal systems over external control is the only guaranteed path to an unbreakable mindset. Stay calm, stay strong.